Well, let's move to Kenya now, where a surprise tax rate of 35% on gambling, lotteries and betting firms has been approved by legislators on the last day of their term. Now, while lower than the 50% tax rate originally proposed in March, industry role players still see it as punitive. Comparisons are being drawn with the imposition of excise duty on low-price beers, which raised retail prices by 60% and cut sales by 85% in 2013. Now, CGTN's Ramah Nyang found out earlier the crisis is compounded by the fact that at this point, it isn't clear how the new tax will be applied.
It's actually not very clear. It was not very clear what was being taxed at the top. So I'm sure we'll get direction going forward.
And that hasn't come through yet?
No, not yet.
So, okay, now that this has been passed into law, finance bill has been accepted by, or rather the memorandum that the president sent back along with the finance bill to legislators has been approved. So when does this come into force?
We are as spectators as you are, because our participation ended when we gave our recommendation, and everything else happens in a completely different realm, the realm of politics.
As Mcheza, are you running any sponsorship programs at the moment?
So as Mcheza, we run grassroots-based sponsorship programs with many, many young teams and many young people, purely because the talent pool needs to be fed. We've always felt that at the top, there's many opportunities for support, at the bottom, not so much. So you have younger people who do have talent, but it's never going to be spotted in order to fill that gap. So now such things are thrown into compromise, purely because how do you fund them if you cannot fund your own operation going forward? Those are some of the things, and you have to look at how you structure your business as well. You decide whether you want to become lean as an organization, spread out to other markets. Mcheza will be spreading out to many other countries in Africa before the end of the year. I want to accelerate that now, purely because, to be honest, Kenya has become uncompetitive. As a business, we lose out completely to all international players, because remember, online betting is non-jurisdictional.
Yeah, so
you
that's
can bet
because it's not located within a specific
Correct.
geographic.
So if you have the internet, you log into any site in the world and you place your bets. So the sites that are not Kenyan do not have to suffer 35%. They'll suffer the tax rate of wherever it is that they registered. Businesses try and cushion themselves in various ways, and we try to have your odds not as strong, meaning if your players are not winning as good as they used to win, they stop playing your platform, and it's just natural. Consumers don't care what problems you're going through as a business. If you're no longer fulfilling the need you were fulfilling before, they'll move on.
Would I be correct in saying that, because over the last 2 years or so, we've seen a flood of money coming through into sponsorship for things like rugby, for example, and even soccer teams as well. Isn't it arguable that this 35% tax rate basically means all of that comes to an end?
So what will happen is, and speaking from Mcheza specifically, is you now need to sit down with the partners you already have on board and discuss how you're going to go forward. Many of these contracts will need to be renegotiated, and taxes are beyond anyone's control, you, the sponsor, and the person receiving the sponsorship. So many of these contracts between Mcheza and any of our partners need to be negotiated with that knowledge, because it's a new reality. It's one of those clauses that are too difficult to capture in text, but in spirit, it's very clear. Should something major change in an environment that we don't control,
because
then you have to go ahead.
This is borderline act of God.
Yes, this is exactly that. It's a force majeure. So you have to be clear that you recognize we have no impact in this, and you recognize we've tried as much as we could to try and bring a sense of fairness in the tax regime, but it did not work.
Would you consider redomiciling the business in a low-tax jurisdiction outside the country instead?
To be honest, Ramah, you have to consider it. You have to consider it that it's no longer feasible, and Kenya is no longer a destination that is good enough to domicile your business if you're in this industry. For any other industry, you want to go into agriculture and other things, then it's good. Car manufacturing, for instance, is being really pushed with extremely healthy tax incentives.
And they've got really big ones, because they've got the tax rate effectively
Correct.
has been halved for 5 years.
Very, very good. If you're manufacturing a car in Kenya, you are manufacturing and assembling, you're in tax heaven. But any other industry, you have to look at it. And a clever businessman will look at the options available on the table to try and recover as much as possible, because it's still an economic venture, it's still a going concern. I want to try and protect as much as possible my customers, I want to protect my employees, and I want to protect my shareholders. So with all these competing needs, there's a middle ground somewhere. I just need to go and find it.
Mauritius, perhaps?
Well, one of millions of options that one can have to try and restructure your business around.